Come to Remora TC to trade like a shark and not get eaten by one. Let's school together to protect and grow our money. It is Saturday, April 19th. Let's do a stock market review. We're going to look at a few tickers and maybe a new one or two at the end of this video. The first one we're going to look at is the triple Qs. You remember from my analysis on Wednesday that the possible upside for the triple Qs is minimal, I would say. There's this trendline resistance here, and where price ended up on Thursday, you can see it right here. They closed it right on the trend line, okay, the purple trend line. So the next possible move, because I annotated this shark circling circle here, is that a big move is coming. I think the upside is perhaps minimal. I'm going to first annotate here that price could move up to this bold trendline resistance. That's about a 4.5% move. And if it were to get through there, it's possible that it could get to this 200-day moving average, which I've annotated here in blue. I do feel that this move is very much a retail investor move. It's not the big sharks and whales that are bringing the massive amounts of dollars in, the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars into the triple Q. So I think due to the the bearish divergence down here, that the real move that the sharks are going to be doing is a lot of selling. Price will ultimately move below this purple trend line, and we will see it get magnetized to come down here to this 380 zone. It'll likely bounce off of that, because that's just what happens when you have these gaps that we're dealing with. And ultimately, I think the final move, until there's some return to calmness and perhaps a rebalancing between the sellers and buyers, will be down here at this purple trend line. And then we'll see. That might be a good opportunity for us to buy back in. So that's the triple Qs. The next one we want to look at is NVDA, because it's NVIDIA. Everybody loves NVIDIA. If you remember from my video on the 13th, Sunday the 13th, price was sitting here at around 110 on the 13th. That's where the Friday was. So Friday the 11th, it closed at 110. I made the video over the weekend. You could see that what I explained was there isn't much upside, the possibility being hitting this downward trend line here. But really, the price action was meant to be going lower. So you could see my annotation here that we could go all the way down to 83 for NVIDIA from where it was on Friday the 11th, with the Wednesday price here being the top for this move. Now, we do have the possibility that price will hit here on Monday if the markets are open on Monday. I don't remember if they will be. If not, it'll be Tuesday. That it will bounce off of this trend line here. I'm just going to make a annotation here in green. Green being it might provide support. The question then is whether there is sufficient upside, sufficient momentum on the RSI to keep it going upward. Now, when we look over here at the RSI compared with price, my annotation got erased, so I will add it back in. The RSI down here is downward. You can see that, it's very obvious. And it mimics the price action up here. Okay, so price action, this point is higher than this point. So that means this is a downward trend in price. And it's the same for RSI, so they're both in agreement. And because they're in agreement, the bearish pressure continues. I still feel it's not time to buy into NVIDIA yet. I'm looking to get a nice entry down here at around 83 if I were to go long. And if that point were to hold and bullish divergence came back in. Otherwise, if this price support line of 83 does not hold, then it's really a big drop. It's an additional almost 40% drop. You can see it here until we get down here to this double support line, support levels here at around 50. So the near-term action for NVIDIA, maybe there will be a gap fill, but really the longer term, the next month or so, it'll be lower prices. So I'm going to annotate here this gap fill possibility for NVIDIA. Okay. Buyers may come back in, fill the gap all the way up to this point here at 111. And it may even come over all the way to this. I'm going to extend this here. There you go. Get rid of this guy. So it's possible the price may come up to here. I'll make an annotation here. Make it red to indicate some overhead resistance. And this is support down here. But really, I'm not going to jump in and go long. I'm not going to invest in it at a low price at this point, just so I can move it up a little bit up to here. I mean, this move itself, if it were here, actually, 15% move. So we'll have to see. I don't want to just chase price. That's something we don't want to do, is fear of missing out. I want to invest based on momentum, the RSI indicator, not just based on price action. So I'm going to just wait on the side for this one. Okay, if you're in NVIDIA right now, just note that I think in the midterm, the next month, prices will be lower and lower and keep going lower. All right, so be careful there. You might want to take some of your risk off the table, exchange some of your shares for cash, perhaps go into a money market fund. That's what I would do. I'm not a investment advisor or a financial advisor or anything like that. I'm just a bald guy who likes to share his opinions. All right, so that is NVIDIA. Let's switch to the FTSE, and I also want to look at the EWG afterwards. I think that's a good one to look at as well. So the FTSE 100, I talked about it last week ago on Sunday. So Sunday is, okay, so I would have talked about it at where this green candle is, the top of this green candle, because that's the close on the Friday. I said, hey, look, they closed it just beneath overhead resistance. And the FTSE, just to help remind folks, it's the top 100 UK companies, right? Similar to the S&P 500, which are the 500 biggest companies in the US. This is the 500 biggest companies in the UK. And you can see that they reclaimed the purple trend line support right here, this purple trend line here, which goes back quite a ways. But they did so with a relatively low volume. Okay. Whereas here on the sell down day, on the 7th, right, the volume was, let's see here, 500K. And whereas on these days, it's, the 70s, right, 70K. So it's not with a lot of conviction, those that are buying back in. Just to show you the trend line again, I'll zoom out to the weekly. This trend line goes back. All right, I drew it all the way back here to the 2020s. All right. So that's the FTSE. Right now, I think it's equally bearish for those who are in it. I suggest consider what to do if price were to break underneath this purple trend line right here. I don't think it has momentum to get up here to the 8900s. I think, in fact, it'll hit this 200-day And I think it kissed it here. Did it kiss it? Let's see. Nearly. Okay, you can see the top of the wick. It nearly touched it. So it'll touch it on Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, and then come back down. And we will see. Lower prices, I think, for the FTSE, lower overall, with support down here at 7,100. Okay. All right, so that's the FTSE. Let's look at EWG. That's an interesting one because it is the German market. It's behaving the same as the FTSE, the UK market. So let's look at the German one real quick. Go to here, EWG. And let's switch to the weekly, give you a quick look. The weekly candle, weekly action here. And the chart looks different, but where price has ended up is very much the same. So let's go back. This goes back even further. So I feel this chart is much cleaner from the standpoint of respect for a trend line. So this trend line that I've drawn here, right here, let's make it purple just to be consistent with how I do long-term. I wrote it here, long-term trend line purple, okay? You can see it goes all the way back to 2006, all right? 2006, right here, resistance, support all along here. You can see the support here. When it finally broke down right here, came back, retested and failed. Lights out, that's the 2008 market drop. And then this trend line continues all the way over here, a lot of resistance in this zone in the 2014s, in the 17s, right? Busted through, came back down, used it as support for one day here on January 29th, but then failed and continued to go beneath. So this trend line is really legit. So here we are. Look at what happened. Okay, go to the daily view. Here's the daily view. You can see that this past 2 weeks, right, price failed underneath the purple trend line, similar to what the FTSE did. And even the S&P, I think the S&P did the same. Price slowed down quite a lot. Everybody panicked. It met some sort of support. The retail investors came back in, bought it back up. And you can see this over the past few days. The volume has been decreasing, mostly. You can see that. And you can see price, arcing upward. And now it's right here, right at resistance. For me, this is a weak signal for the German market, German index. And looking at the RSI down here, you can see that the price action from end of January is upward up here, right? Price action has a nice upward trend, but the RSI down here is downward, okay? And then of course it sold down here, price sold down. This is only a retest. Price is coming up to test overhead resistance, and then the next weeks, months, further lower prices for this fund. The two zones of support, of course, you can see there's the 200-day here. I'll annotate it in blue. So here's the 200-day. I'll just kind of draw it like that. That's 200-day. Price will likely come down there and do a little bounce. Okay, so I'll just kind of, here, let's use this. So if it were to go down, that's about a 10% drop. Leave it like that. It'll dance around there a little bit. But what's really concerning is once it gets below this 33 is the fact that it's pretty thin action. That's another, 17%. So down to 27, mid 27s. And then there's a lot more support down here, okay? So we'll see. Overall, all the markets are bearish. So for the coming week, be careful. Be careful on buying the dip and allow the momentum indicators to come back in to help you. Right now, it's a shark's game. They're circling, okay? The sharks are circling, and they're looking to just enjoy some free lunch. Good luck with your trades, and if you find this video useful to you, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Send it to your friends and your family. Let them know about my analysis. All right. Have a good rest of your weekend, and Easter if you celebrate Easter.